Hey, it's Johnny Jet. Welcome back to my podcast, YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, please click the link below. Today we have Philip Dyack, who is the owner of Passports and Visas, and he specializes in getting people passports and visas. So, Philip, thank you for taking the time to do this. You've been doing it since 2000,
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
and you're based
Yeah.
in Denver, but you have offices all around the country.
Yeah, we have six offices right now. So yeah, but based primarily out of Denver, Colorado. Yep.
So, did COVID just mess up your business? I know it messed up the whole passport office.
It did, absolutely, yes. So on March 13th of 2020, when COVID kind of officially hit, the passport agency shut down, and that very much kind of shut down uh, passport processing for us and other companies in our industry and so forth. And people were not traveling as much. So we are still very much in a recovery mode. Absolutely. Yes.
And have things improved?
They have. Yes. So the passport agency, as I mentioned, shut down in March of 2020. They started to reopen to emergency processing. So if you're traveling within 3 days or have sort of a life and death emergency and so forth, started doing that, I guess, back in sort of June or July of 2021. So people could go to a passport agency if they absolutely had a need. And for us, we're a private expediting company that we're authorized by the State Department to assist people that are traveling internationally and need to get a passport quick. Around that time frame, they started to open up back to us again. So
So you couldn't get people a passport in April or May of 2020.
no, yeah, from March 2020 on through sort of June of 21, we were basically shut down,
Wow.
being able to help. As a company, we stayed open, um, thinking that was a good kind of public service, if you will. We got inundated with phone calls with people that were desperate. And we're helping people with how to make an appointment at the passport agency and hooking them up with congressmen. At that time, congressmen were a good way to go to get a passport quick.
Wow.
So really more or less as a public service, not being able to assist anyone directly, but just kind of guiding people. And we felt like that would be good karma to help people that, hopefully they'd remember that we helped them out. And at some point in their future, friends or family or what have you, colleagues would be using us for our services. So.
Good. Well, I hope it's paying off. So, how about today? Let's say I get a lot of reader emails and questions asking, I need to get a passport in a week, or I need to get
Mhm.
one. My passport expires in April. I mean, how much lead time do you do? I mean, my one of my number one tips, especially I always do this like January 1st. Say, go find your passport, track it down, and find out when the expiration date is, because so many people, I mean, show up to the airport and they don't realize their passport's expired, or they can't find it, or it only has like 5 months of validity left. And a lot of
Sure.
countries
Yeah.
don't accept you if you don't have 6 months. And I don't think people really realize that.
They don't. No, and that's part of what we do as a company is provide these kind of services to people that say going over to Paris on a trip, and we talk to them about and sort of educate them with the kind of topics that you're talking about. Right now, we're still very limited. The passport agency still has a tremendous backlog and still has limited staffing. So I've talked about it in terms of what the public can get by working with the passport agency directly. Right now, if you apply for a passport, it's taking about 11, 12 weeks to process. Um, so you need to really plan ahead.
And that, but if
um,
you expedite it, is it
so
increase it
there's
by
an
a month?
expedited fee of $60 that you can pay directly to the passport agency, and that'll get it back in about 8 weeks. So
Okay.
basically shaves off about 4 weeks.
Okay.
Those times are for processing at the passport agency. It does not include shipping. Also, if you're applying to get a first time passport or you've lost your passport, as you mentioned, people do that. You have to go to a post office, and different parts of the country, post office appointments are kind of few and far between. Some of them are out a month or so in different locations. So that isn't included as well. So that's sort of what the public can expect if they go sort of the regular route, or regular route rather. Um, for us, we're an expediting company. We typically deal with people that are in a panic of, I'm getting married in Mexico next week and I need to get there, kind of thing, or I have an important business trip over in Europe or what have you. So what we can do, we can offer services that we can get a passport as quick as 4 days. Um, Our most common service is sort of a 12-day processing, so about 2 weeks roughly.
And how
So
much
that,
does that cost extra, or is it different? Or is it all
yeah,
dependent?
so our fees, we're still very limited with what we can do. Back prior to COVID, we had more allocations of passports. Right now, we're very limited, as I mentioned. So our fees right now for a service that we have that's sort of an entry level economy service where we get the passport back in about 3 to 4 weeks. That we charge $109 for that. That is above and beyond the State Department fees. And then it goes up from there. So the faster that you need it, the more that you'll pay. As I mentioned, the 12-day service, the roughly 2-week process we have, we charge $449 for that right now.
So if someone needs to go to Asia in 2 days and they don't have a
Mhm.
passport, or they lost or expired, are they not going?
So the only opportunity, if you need something as fast as 2 days, really your best bet would be to contact the passport agency directly. They have an 800 number
Okay.
and explain the process, and they can then make you an appointment at a passport agency. Now, those appointments are very, very limited.
And it's a
Obviously,
life or death, because a business meeting wouldn't do it probably, right?
yeah, it's mostly life and death is what they're sort of prioritizing at this point. So it would be unlikely. I mean,
I
to answer
see.
your question, it's very unlikely, but
I
that
see.
would be the recommendation. As I mentioned, our service, we can get one in about 3 to 4 days. But if you're traveling like tomorrow or maybe 2 days from now, we just simply are not in a position to be able to help with that. We'd guide you, as I said, we'd give you the 800 number and wish you the best of luck. So,
Right.
but most often, especially for a business trip, you'll end up having to postpone the trip.
So if people need to get a hold of you, where should they go?
So you can go to our website, which is passportsandvisas.com, or you can call our 800 number as well. And we have a team of folks that are ready and willing to assist you and helping guide you through the process.
So, and Philip, full disclosure, helped me with my passport last year because it was expiring, and now my son's passport is expiring in April, and he's helping me again. And it was very smooth. You actually have a passport app, which I haven't used yet, but you can upload a photo, and you will say if it will work or be accepted or not. How does it
Sure.
work?
Yeah, one of the benefits of COVID is during the throes of COVID, part of a passport application is a passport photo. And so during COVID, many of the drugstores like Walgreens, CVS, Duane Reade, places like that, that you would typically go to, didn't do passport photos because of masks and because of guidelines of 6 foot distances and so forth. So
And
we
Costco stopped
decided,
theirs. They're no longer do it. Costco.
yeah, exactly. So it became a problem. So if you're getting a passport photo, we had our team of developers develop an app where you can download an app off of the iPhone or Android stores, or go to a website that we have, or as part of our process, you can choose a digital photo service for $7.95, and you'll send your photo into us. You'll use the app to take the photo, and then we make it the appropriate size, put it with the appropriate background, make it super easy. So you could take a photo with where you are right here with all the the planes and all the cool things in the background, and we'll totally make it compliant for the passport agency.
Wow.
So it's, as I said, it's one of the benefits of COVID is we decided to innovate and create this app that makes the process easier, and that's part of our service, is trying to make everything as easy as possible. So instead of having to go to a CVS or Walgreens or something like that, you can take a photo, or you can use an existing photo that you like, and passports are good for 10 years. So, pay attention to making a good photo for yourself, right?
I mean, that
So,
makes it so much easier.
yeah, yeah,
Although passports for children 16 and under are only good for 5 years, correct?
correct. Yes. Yeah.
And I learned from you that you can't renew those. My son is 5 years old. We got his before he even turned one,
Hmm.
and I thought I could just renew it, and you
Yeah,
can't.
the process of renewing an adult passport is easier. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, there are certain applications where you have to go directly to a passport agency or a post office to go and get what they call it, the passport application adjudicated, which is sort of like a notarizing, witnessing kind of process, right? If you're just renewing an adult passport, it's a matter of just filling out the forms, and the photos and so forth. That's easier. But for children, as you mentioned, there is no process for renewing a child's passport. You have to go in and reapply for a new child's passport again. So it's a little bit more of a lengthier process, right?
Gotcha.
Hmm.
And also, I hear that the State Department is going to make renewing passports for adults easier.
They are, yep. They are working through the process of making that an online process. I don't have any timeframes for when that will be available, or what the process is, or what the time frame of when you apply online and to the point of you get your passport book or passport card. But yeah, they announced I think earlier this year actually that they were going to be going through the process of really innovating and making the renewal of an adult passport so much easier. So that'll be great.
Gotcha. And speaking of
Mhm.
passport cards, I always get one because my wife's from Toronto. In case one of us loses our passports, we could at least fly to Buffalo and then drive across the border with a passport card because you
Yeah.
can do a land border with that, or I think a cruise as well. So, do you recommend people getting passport cards? And also, I'm sure you recommend people ticking the box to get the larger passport size.
We do, yeah. And those are two obviously separate subjects, right? So the passport card, people typically along the borders, so Texas, California, Arizona typically get the passport card. As you mentioned, it's a really easy way. It's about the size of a driver's license, and an easy way to cross the border, either by land or sea. So you can go over to Mexico and Canada and the Caribbean by using a passport card, as long as you're not flying. If you're
Right.
flying, then you need the buck, right? So for people that are, in border cities, for sure, typically they choose that. People that are sort of the middle of the country oftentimes pick it, but probably don't use it as frequently. But
Right.
it's so it wouldn't be as useful as far as traveling, but it's also an excellent form of ID. So
Definitely.
it's a secondary form of ID that's pretty valuable, right?
Right.
So
And is that
it's an extra.
$30 by the way, extra?
Yeah, it's an extra $30. So and they're good for 10 years. So it's certainly worth the money.
Yeah.
And then as far as the book, that's at no charge. So typical passport book is 28 pages. You can check a box to get a 52-page passport if you travel frequently. We deal with a lot of travelers that travel quite a bit, and they run out of pages. So the pages are all stamped up. They have visas, and in today's day and age, they don't add pages to passports. Probably like 10 years or so ago, you used to be able to do that. But now, if you run out of pages, you need to get a new book. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, I
so
used to do that. My tip 10 years ago was to go to a U.S. embassy overseas, and they would
mhm,
do it for free right away. I've done it in Thailand. I've done it in Hungary because my
yep,
passport used to always get full. It was this thick. I mean, these days
yeah.
it's so thin because I
Yeah,
haven't
we see
traveled.
quite a few that come through that have that. So, yeah, they're definitely checking that extra box. It's a no fee thing. It's not really that much more of a cumbersome of a thing to carry.
Definitely.
So definitely recommend
Uh,
that.
for sure. And then how about people who do go to certain countries? Like I know in the old days, I don't know if this is still true, but if you went to Israel or if you went to Malaysia or the Middle East, some people are like, you know what, I need to get a second passport. I mean, and
Hmm.
now the Middle East and Israel, they're friends and
Right.
but in the past they weren't. So if you had an Israeli stamp in your passport, you wouldn't be allowed to enter. Be allowed to enter. But now,
Right. Yep. Yeah, you can apply to get a second passport. So a second valid passport. Those passports are good for 4 years.
only four.
Yeah, they're
Ah,
only good for four. And as you mentioned, people use them in certain situations. As you said, if you have an Israeli stamp, there are certain countries that might cause you to have some challenges. The more common thing is people that just travel very frequently,
need visas.
that they need to get a visa to one country while they're traveling to another country at the same time. So it affords them when typically a visa is a sticker which is placed in the passport that you have to submit your passport to get the sticker, right?
Right.
Um, and so having a second passport allows you to be able to travel while you're getting that visa. Particularly now during COVID, visas are a challenge, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So a lot of countries have additional requirements for visas. A lot of countries are just not issuing visas if they're choosing to not have travelers come into their country because of COVID. And then also they're struggling, right? There's embassies where they're working from home and so forth. So with a lot of the visas, the timeframes are extended. So, or their rush servicing is not available, as an example. So a popular visa for us is Russia. So Russia takes 2 weeks to process a visa. Prior to COVID, they used to have a 3-day processing time frame. They just don't provide that right now, right? So getting back to the second passport thing, it's to surrender your passport for 2 to 3 weeks to get a visa. We deal with people that travel all the time, right? They're literally traveling internationally every week, so they just can't do that, right? So or pilots, a lot of times pilots and flight crews have second passports for these kind of reasons.
Can you have a third passport or just two?
Now you have two, right?
Okay, gotcha. And then I don't know about India anymore, but I went to India. I mean, man, their visa was ridiculous. If I just signed when I put my signature on it, if I hit the box, they declined it. And that was the beauty of having a passport or a visa company like you, because they look at it before they send it away and they say this is not going to fly, and they were right. So
Sure.
I mean, are most countries still like that? If you even just go outside the line or even touch the box.
It depends. I mean, India was kind of known for that, or is known for that, right? You cannot have a flamboyant signature when you're applying for a lot of these countries. So you're right, and that's part of our service, right? Is if you apply for us for a passport or for a visa, part of our process is we assign an account manager to guide you through the process and sort of hold your hand through it. Then when we receive your documentation, we review it for completeness and accuracy and look for things like that, making sure things are filled out correctly, making sure that the photos, meets the standards. And as you mentioned with the signatures, making sure the signature is done correctly. Basically, the dotting the I's and crossing the T's so that when it's submitted to the passport agency or when it's submitted to, say, for instance, like the Russian consulate or Indian consulate or whatever, that it's smooth, right? And that, for us personally, it helps our relationship, right? So when they see our couriers come in, they know that those applications are going to be smooth, right? So
I assume that most people who submit their applications through you, the acceptance rate is very high.
It is. Yeah. And we catch a lot. So it's frankly, it's very valuable to all of us, right? It makes it smoother for us. I mean, and then obviously smoother for our customers as well and the general public. So
for sure. So what's your best tip for consumers who are, planning on traveling internationally, or maybe they're not even planning, but should probably have a passport anyway, just in case?
Yeah. I mean, certainly having a passport is a really good idea. As you mentioned, highly recommend check your passport. As much as we'd love to have everyone our customer, we'd love to have people travel. Like, I'm a huge fan of traveling and love traveling personally. And you don't want to be stuck and have an amazing trip coming up and then scrambling to try to get your passport. So certainly get a passport. You never know when you might have a trip that comes up. And if you do have one, check to make sure that it's valid. And if it's not, go through the process of renewing it for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah. So how about if someone's traveling overseas and they lose theirs? I mean, that actually happened to my wife. We were in Estonia one time and she foolishly put it in her back pocket while we were bike riding and it popped out. I mean, and I told her on the black market, a passport, a U.S. passport is worth I think I've read up to 13 grand. Yeah. So you have to guard it like it's 13 grand in your pocket. So, I mean, but can people contact you, or they just got to go right to the State Department, get that thing canceled, and you're going back home on an emergency one?
Yeah, you have to go to the local embassy to get and they'll issue you a 1-year limited validity passport to be able to get back to the U.S.
That's it, just to get home, though. You can't travel around.
Yeah, sometimes they just issue 90-day ones. The thing that, honestly, I don't know what it's like exactly right now, but during, the middle of COVID, particularly like, 2020 and early 2021, people were running into problems there. So, I dealt with a customer that was in Greece and the U.S. embassy was shut down in Athens. Like there was no embassy because they were shut down. And so that's, or if they were, available, then they'd have to wait like a month. So, you're spending a little bit more time overseas than you had planned, probably. Right?
Definitely. So, I mean, I was on a cruise with my wife and we were spending the day in Estonia, and we went back to get on the ship, and all of a sudden she's like, I can't find my passport. I was like, what? And the captain said, you know what? We're going to Poland next, and they will not accept anyone on the cruise without a ship. You can't, I mean, she's like, fine, we'll just stay on the ship. They're like, no, we can't have you even on the ship because we'll get fined $1 million.
Wow.
And so we had to go right to the Canadian embassy, And it was a huge ordeal. She's like, listen, if I cancel it, I can only issue an emergency one. You're gonna have to pay for your own ticket back to the to Canada, and that's it. You got to spend the night here and then fly in the morning, and you're going home. You can't go on, and
Right.
it's a nightmare. So make
Yeah,
sure you hold on to that passport.
it is, and especially when you're traveling internationally, make sure you have a take a photo of it, take a do a photocopy of it or something like that. Because if you do lose it, having all the information that's on the passport is useful, right?
It is.
So particularly because they cancel it and so forth. So
Yeah.
having the passport number and so forth.
She had a photocopy, a digital copy, and she even had her own old passport. But none of that was, they're like, sorry, we're just going to have to issue it. But at least they had the information there. So
Right.
it's quicker
Right.
for them to fill it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, did I miss anything? I think we covered a lot in this.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think we covered quite a bit.
All right. So
Yeah.
again, thank you for taking the time. Again, where can people find you? And I mean, most people who are going to you, they need a passport or a visa quick.
Yeah, our sweet spot is helping people with travel visas, and then relating to passports, people that are traveling within sort of 4 to 5 weeks, and they're just needing to get it done quickly, and we guide them through the process and help them out. And as I said, so you can find us by going to passportsandvisas.com and kind of follow the website or whatever on your phone or on your computer, and we're here to help.
Great. Well, thank you. And also, one last question. So which countries right now are the most popular ones that Americans travel to that need a visa? Is India still one? Brazil, Russia, China?
So
I know.
Russia and India are the two really popular ones that we're dealing with right now. Normally, China is our most popular visa, but China is still very much just
Shut
not
down.
issuing visas to people. People that currently have Chinese visas, those are canceled. Usually, China issued a 10-year visa. They've already announced that those are all canceled. Right?
Wow. So everyone has to get a whole new one?
You have to get a brand new one, right? But as far as they're not issuing tourist visas right now, so hopefully that opens up soon, right? But to answer your question more directly, right now we're pretty busy with Russian visas, Indian visas. A lot of people go to Turkey, so
you need a visa for Turkey?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
It's an electronic visa.
Okay, because I think I got mine on arrival when I went.
Yeah, you have to get a visa ahead of time. It's an online process, takes about 10 minutes. It's pretty simple. But
okay.
Yeah.
Brazil, you still need one for Brazil or no?
If you're a US citizen, no. Yeah, back in the day, Brazil used to be very popular, but now, to kind of increase tourism and so forth, they did away with visas, right? So.
And what's the most difficult visa to get?
That's an interesting question. The one, honestly, that is popular that a lot of people get very confused about is Russia. Okay. There's a lot of different types of visas, and they all have different requirements. So if you go in there to go visit family, there's this type of visa. If you go as a tourist, it's this type of visa. It's just a lot of paperwork, and as you mentioned, a lot of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And if you do something incorrect, they just reject the application entirely. So,
Yeah, I think I heard Angola was the most difficult, but.
Yeah, in terms of difficult to obtain, there's some African countries that are like Sudan and so forth that are really hard to get, right? So,
not that you want to go right now to those places anyway. So
no, no, I would, no.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Well, Philip, I really appreciate you taking time again. And listen, if you guys need a passport or a visa, quick, now you know who to go to.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you.